What is up, you guys? Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Explain It podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Stephen Hunt.
And I'm Ingrid Hernandez.
And we have a fantastic, phenomenal, coolest ever guest coming on with us today. I have a special relationship with this person that's coming on today, too, because this happens to be my sister-in-law. And we're so pumped for everybody to get to experience the greatness that is April Juliano. So without further ado, let's bring on April.
Hey,
what is up?
Hey, that was a nice introduction.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You are like the busiest person I've ever met, I think. I don't know how you do it all. So you being able to carve out a little bit of time for us is just so awesome, and we really appreciate it.
This is the stuff I like to do, right? That's what we were just talking about, getting an assistant, right?
Absolutely.
Could we just like hang out on podcasts all day, every day?
Oh, God, I wish. That'd be so good.
Yeah.
Content all day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well,
One day.
April, for people that don't know who you are, could you give us a little bit of a background? Tell us about your journey, how you got into real estate, all the good stuff there.
Sure. Okay. So I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, and I started in real estate here in Jacksonville in 2020. We started out wholesaling and pretty quickly got into flipping, and we have been flipping and wholesaling ever since. We started out with like one flip, and then the next year we did 7, and then the next year we did 14, and last year we bought 37.
Wow.
And we do a little bit of wholesaling. I've kind of I'm also teaching classes about how to flip, and so the wholesaling is kind of like a lot smaller now, and we're focusing more on flipping, and I'm raising money. We use all private money for our flips, so it's been pretty exciting.
Wait, so you use do you use hard money at all?
Yes. So I raise all private money for my flips.
Nice. So you're
Wild,
making
huh?
bank for people.
Oh, yeah. That's so much money to raise,
Wow.
too. You're talking about full purchase price and reno? Come on.
Do you know what's funny, April? When I got started, I only had private money as well. Like I didn't know any better. And like when Steven reached out to me, like our first deal we did, like that's what I did is I brought private money. I didn't know all of these requirements that people would have through the hard money process. And the very first hard money deal I actually did was with Steven, because that's like how
I'm a lot of people's first. That's good stuff. I love it.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what? And learning all the expectations there and stuff. And so it's so cool to hear a different story and just how much trust the community has with you, because borrowing from the private money lender sense, like that's amazing. That's a feat. Like good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's necessary if you want to scale and do it on a higher level. And, not only that, but there's so many people out there that have money and they don't know what to do with it. And so I just try to give people the opportunity to come in and partner with me on the project. I just kind of look at it as sharing the wealth with as many people as I possibly can, and nothing against the institutions, but I don't want to make them richer. I want to make, the average Joe on the street richer. And so, I mean, it's funny because even Steven's wife, Angel, and I, we share a dad, and we got him investing, and I think between the two of us, we've almost doubled his retirement income in the last couple of years.
Yeah, you guys helped retire him, no?
No, we did retire him.
Yeah, which is huge, right?
Awesome.
And he's getting income off of us now, and he's like giving us more money, and so it's like that is like an amazing success story, and I want to be able to share that with as many people as possible. And so my goal is to really just turn down institutional money and go straight for the private money. It is a little bit more work. I do a lot of networking, but when you start getting kind of like on a roll with it, honestly, it gets easier, right? And it's kind of like this, like I want to sit on podcasts all day. I'm sitting on, Zooms with private lenders. I was on a Zoom with a private lender lender right before this. I actually raised $100,000 just today.
Hey, come on.
Yes.
With two
Get it,
different
girl.
private lenders.
Mm.
So, that's the part that I really like too, is raising the money and sharing the wealth.
Yeah, so I
love
was
it.
going to back it up and ask about that too, because you started off way more focused on the wholesaling side of things. And so for somebody that isn't wholesaling, that's thinking about fix and flipping, right? Or maybe they're not in real estate at all and they want to know, should I start wholesaling? Should I start fix and flipping? What recommendation would you give? Because you made that transition over to fix and flipping. And most people might think, well, then I have to go raise the private money. I don't know anybody with money. Well, then I have to find a crew and then I have to flip it. And then I take all the risk. What if I do it wrong? What if I got the price point wrong? Whereas it feels like wholesaling might be maybe a little bit less risky.
Yeah, so here's the thing with wholesaling, and I mean, I know you've done it a little bit, Stephen, and so have you, Ingrid. It takes up a lot of
Wait,
time.
I helped him do his first wholesale.
It's
Yeah,
very true.
exactly. It takes a
I was
lot of
different.
time, and
Yeah.
not to say that that's where you shouldn't start,
Mhm.
but it's not where you have to start. Right?
Mhm.
Like, you don't, I do like a lot of coaching. And when I'm talking to people, the first thing that I want to know is, what are your goals and do you have a job? Right? Because if you're going to be doing wholesaling, it's great, but you want to be thinking of this as, a business, right? And so if you're going to build a wholesale business, you're going to have to put in 6 days a week, 10-hour days if you really want it to be successful. And not everybody has that. So it's fine to get into wholesaling. But I think that if you want to spend less time and make more money, then you can go into flipping. And it
Mhm.
actually, I just, about to do my second class. And with this second class, I'm teaching people how to double their income through flipping. And I'm actually going to partner with people on their first flip so that I can show them how they can go out and raise the money. I've already done it with someone else. And this lady, she has she's a what do you call it? A pharmacist. And she has 3 boys and she's a widow. And so she doesn't have a lot of time to be wholesaling. She doesn't have time to mess around with that. And so I
Mhm.
showed her
Right.
my system in flipping, and she went and raised some private money and did her first flip. And now she's on her third one. And she's already basically doubled her income, which helps a lot since she lost her husband. And so after I saw that, I thought, gosh, even me kind of getting away from the wholesaling, don't get me wrong, I still do a little bit of it because I still want to find some of my leads. I don't put my main focus on it. But, getting away from the wholesaling and into flipping, it's less time. And Stephen, you're the busiest person I know. And maybe I am, maybe I just don't know anything different, but I do feel like this is way more fun for me, and it does take up less time. And once you get your systems and procedures, I have my SOPs, I have my team in place. I've turned it into an entire business model, and it kind of runs itself, and I get to do stuff like this.
That's so awesome. First of all, kudos to you. And I've never heard somebody speak on our podcast so far in such an owner mentality.
Oh yeah, the
Like,
confidence is through the roof.
yo, the SOPs. You got to have your
Yes,
SOPs.
SOPs.
Yeah. So I love it. I love it. So take us back just real quick though. So you got started on fixing and flipping. What did that first one feel like?
Oh,
Like
so
what was that like?
this is funny though. It actually, my first fix and flip was a creative. And so we did it was a contract for deed or a novation, whatever you want to call it. I don't think we called it a novation at the time, more of like a contract for deed. And so we didn't have to come up with the purchase price, which is so great. So that was huge.
So the seller was
And
going to carry your note is what
the
you're saying.
seller was our private lender.
Yeah.
Now
Awesome.
That's awesome.
we didn't do a closing, right? So
Yeah.
we saved on the closing costs. We did more of like a contract for deed type of thing. So there was
Yeah.
no front end closing, but the seller essentially financed our first. So there's a private lender right there, right? They
Yeah.
financed our first deal, our first flip, which is how we got into flipping. And then a sub two member lent us the money for the renovation. And of course, like, things went wrong, and we went through contractors and we had this and that, but I think on our first one we made like $70,000. Of course, this was back in
Wow.
2020. We started it in 2020 and we sold it in 2021, so we sold it on margin. We thought we were going to make 40. We ended up making 70, like those are the good old days, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much like that anymore, but that definitely gave us the confidence to be like, this is it. We love this. Let's do this more.
Wow. So what's the difference look like now on your end going from flip number one? Because there's a major difference on my end of what it looks like going from flip number one back then, 2020 to 2021, to now you did 37 flips last year.
Yes.
Crazy volume.
That is crazy volume. So it's a lot different now because I have to be very dialed in on what I'm looking for. And I also have to be okay with my margins, right? So I have a system and how I underwrite my deals. I kind of know who my lenders are, and I am not buying on margin, right? Like before you could say, the ARV, it's, January, the ARV is 220, but in August, the ARV is going to be 240. It's not like that anymore. You kind of have to scale it back. So the underwriting looks a lot different. So if I think the ARV is 220 today, I take a little bit off. I've seen you do that too, Ingrid, where you take a little bit off and you make sure that, you just have enough of a margin in order to be able to make mistakes. And because I do this in volume, it's going to look a little bit different for me than maybe for somebody starting out. I'm okay with making a minimum, of say $20,000 on a flip, right? Like the goal is to make more, and I underwrite it at more, but if I'm only going to make $20,000 on a flip, I'm okay with that. So my underwriting just looks a little bit different now, because I do want to buy more deals, and I do want to do this at a high volume, not only for myself, but also for my contractor teams. We have four to five different contractor teams. As we know, contractor teams, they ebb and they flow. And so you can continue to add more, but I want to keep my money working. I want to keep my contractors working. I want to keep the deals flowing in. And so I think like the way that we have it set up, it's going to look different for everybody else. Like if you're doing your first flip and you're just doing one, you don't want to make less than 50. So you're going to be a little bit more picky about the ones that you buy, whereas I'm less picky because I'm doing it on volume, and I'm okay making a little bit less on this one because I'm going to make a lot more on this one.
Yeah, that makes
totally
a lot
agree
of
with that.
sense.
And I love that advice too. Like, hey, if it's your first one, you're probably going to want to try to make at least 50 because you don't really have the room for error. I look at this a lot. I have a lot of people that come over and they want to get started with fix and flipping. And I'm like, you just got to be careful because one bad flip for your first flip can take you out of the game completely and set you way back.
Yeah.
Yes.
You truly, in my opinion, to be really good at this, it becomes a volume game.
Yeah.
You want to do flip after flip after flip.
Right. And if you're not making at least 50, if you lose, if you have to go in and say do a repipe because the contractor, missed the galvanized pipe in a house, which has happened to me, and it just makes me so mad. But anyways, that's a whole nother subject. You got to go in and do a repipe, or you got to go in and do all this extra electrical work came up. Like you have the space to do that. Where like I have lost money on flips, right? But if I lose money on one and I'm doing 37, I'm okay with that, right? Because I've got all these behind it. And so it definitely looks a little bit different now. Like when I was doing one at a time, I was making sure that my spread was really big, right? And now my spread can be a lot smaller, because I have so many more that I'm doing, but I still want to stay, within my underwriting guidelines, which I have, put in place.
I love it. And the fact that you have guidelines, because some people are all over the place. And I'm like, I think very first thing is you need to get in the practice of underwriting and get in the practice of like getting your 2 or 3 people you really, really trust. Like I had Steven underwrite a deal that I just did, and he affirmed everything that I had. Like he and I underwrite very, very similarly. And when he gave me the news, I was like, yeah. Is 40?
That's what I thought.
Is 40K really worth going into this deal but it sounds like if I was April, the answer would be yes.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
I would definitely do it for 40K.
Yeah.
Same here. I've changed my underwriting actually, because there's also a difference too. It's really, a lot safer, in my opinion, and a lot easier to get started in flipping too, doing a partnership. And even though both of us had already flipped properties before together, we were flipping all of last year together. But it makes it a little bit easier in that sense. But you're looking for those bigger spreads. Whereas when you do just do it as a solo person, right? If we weren't getting a 50K profit on a house, we didn't really want to take a look at it, because then at this point, like, what's
Yeah.
the point of putting all the work in if we're
Yeah.
each going to walk with 20 or 25K, maybe less if other things go wrong, right? Whereas, yeah, if you're a solo person, you have the ability to come down, I think, a little bit in that margin.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mrs. J Tree, she's on my Instagram, and she asked the question, is it okay to flip in a state that you don't live in to get started? And I do believe she's never flipped before, because she asked me questions on Instagram, and she's never, I don't think she's done her first deal quite yet. Maybe she has, but it's on the wholesaling side. I actually have an answer for this, but I'm curious what you think, April.
I wouldn't. I know that there are people out there that do it, but like I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, and I've done over 60 flips, and I've never done one that's not in my own market, or one that I can't at least drive to. I don't, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. I feel like there are people out there who have mastered it. And if you live in a market where you're like, I'm not flipping in my city, which I don't see that there's any city in the entire country that you couldn't at least do one flip in that's close to where you are. But I like to be hands on. I want to make sure that, I'm able to even though most of the time I don't even see half the properties that we do, my husband does, or I send my contractor, or like we had a pipe burst on like right before Christmas in a house during one of our freezes that filled the whole house with water.
Oh.
And, it's like we're right in town. And so we were easily able to get, one of our friends to run out there to go fix the pipe. I mean, I just feel like your city, your town the best. So get started there. And then if you want to venture out to do virtual flipping, then maybe you can do that. I would be, if you are going to do virtual flipping, I would be partnering with someone that lives in the city that you want to flip.
Okay, thank you, April. I was going to give the same feedback. So my very first flip was a virtual flip. But
Oh,
it was
wow.
yeah, I know. I don't know how I got the cojones to do that, but anyway, like
It worked out.
That's hilarious.
I was doing wholesaling, and I was calling, and I was like, wait, if I wholesale this, I'm gonna make 10 grand. But if I flip this, I think I can make like 45,000. Now, mind you, some context. This was during the time where you could not hit it. Like,
right. Go
everything
wrong.
was going great. Like, even after putting the property on market, our first contract fell through. And then the second contract, we got $10,000 more.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this just doesn't happen. But yeah, we made $54,000 on that deal. But what I did was I made sure that when we got the contract, right away we vetted agents that could help us with this. We knew it was very much a cosmetic thing, but like, hey, do you have a roofer contract? Do you have a flooring person, a cleaning person? Like, I thought I needed to put a new bathroom into this property, but the cleaners that the guy got, Hector, they like cleaned the crap out of it. Like, I was like, wait a minute, I thought I needed a new shower, and they cleaned it so well that I didn't have to replace the shower.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Cool. I mean, it was a manufactured home turned single family residence,
Yeah.
But because it was relicensed and all that. And do you know what's hilarious? When I first contracted it, I accidentally used and this was Google Maps did this to me. Google Maps still does this to this day, shows the house behind it, not the actual
As
house.
the house.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so I
funny.
comped the wrong house in the first
Oh
place.
my gosh.
Oh, wow. You got lucky.
Oh, kinds of lucky. But to April's point, if you're going to flip virtually, you have to have a really solid partner and team, because and you have to know in your gut that they're solid. I had somebody who I partnered with in Round Rock, Texas, and they were not the right partner, and I lost $55,000 on that deal.
Yeah.
So it's easy come, easy go, baby. And
Yep,
so you
that's
have to be
right.
methodical. You have to be methodical about this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, my short answer, same thing there, as I just would not do it. I personally don't even like venturing out to areas that are 2-3 hours away from where I live. I like everything to be in the backyard because I can check on the crews, I can touch it, I can feel it. It's not a hassle to go check it out. We have a deal right now in Flagstaff even, and it's just tough because you have to go find new people if your people don't want to go out there. You have to put your trust in a whole new team and a whole new process, and it can burn you. And luckily for us, we underwrote that one
Yeah,
way
fantastically.
too low
Yeah,
and ended up being worth way more than we thought. So it's going to save us on that end. But I mean, we had to find all new resources, and luckily our crew decided to go back up there or go up there and kind of save the day.
Yeah,
To bring that one to life.
Our GC.
Oh, wow.
So like to the tune of $100K, and now
Oh,
has
my
left
goodness.
us with an electrician who placed
Leaned our
a lien on
property.
our house,
Then we
which
have to go
he
fight.
legally can't do actually, because we hired the GC with the license, and we had his release form. So we have what I feel is good backup to
Right.
have him take the lien off. But regardless, you still now have to deal with it.
Mhm.
But what has been your experience in getting your crew together, and like what are the tips and tricks you might be able to share with people to get the kind of crew you need?
Yeah, for sure. So, it was kind of a learning process for us because we just hired the first person that came along that we liked, and got it. Luckily, we have never gotten burned where like someone's run off with our money, but we've gotten burned where they did crappy work, or we had to fire them, and then kind of like what you said, then they want to put a lien on your property and you have to deal with all that. So now we've completely changed our system. We go and because we've also created a reputation in town as among the real estate investing community, that we do a lot of projects. So we do referrals. So we ask people. I mean, it's so easy to find a local real estate network, and to start asking people. And then it's not enough just to ask people, right? Then once you meet with the contractor, you want to vet the contractor. You want to see what houses they've done, and you want to get referrals. And I always say get at least 3 referrals. And I say this with the private lending too. And I'm more than happy to give people several referrals. Like, call these people, ask them what their experience was. Do they have overages? How long are they taking? Do you have to babysit? You just want to make sure that you have like a set of questions that you're going to ask the contractor. But I think the number one most important thing is the referral. And then when we hire a new contractor, we give them one project and we see how they do on that one. And then if we like working with them, then we'll give them more. We also, because we do so many projects, we don't want to be managing 30 different contractors. So we want to make sure that when we're taking somebody on, that they can handle 5+ houses at a time, and that they're willing to scale with us. And a lot of people say they're willing to scale with you, and then once you give them too many houses, then you see that things slow down. So then you kind of know, okay, like these guys, they can only handle 3 or 4 houses, but I really like the way they work. I have another contractor that I completely trust him. He does great work. I love him, but I can't stand communicating with him. And it might just be me, but I'm a very upfront person with no, like, I'm not going to just text my contractor, be like, hi, how are you doing today? Hey,
No.
by the way, can you do this? Like, I'm just going to text, I need you to do this, right?
Less words. Yes.
He likes me to be like, how are you today? And then ask the question, so it's like, it's not that there's anything wrong with him. It's just that I can't stand that. And so, yeah, you're not doing any more of my projects, but I'll refer people to you, like they
Yes.
might not mind doing that.
Oh my
I
God.
just don't want to do it.
That totally reminds me of the guy. So that Steven and I just put a guy on a property out in, well, I guess I won't say just in case it, whatever. But that's how he is.
Yeah.
He was so talkity talk. And I'm like, I
Talks
don't
way too much.
have this time. I
Yeah.
need you just to
It's
tell me. do
actually
they
a
get it?
red flag to me. So anytime somebody
yeah.
starts talking too much and they try to brag about the work that they do or all that kind of stuff, as soon as I start to get that personality in on a construction crew, I'm like,
No.
you're bad news bears.
Yeah.
Like you are talking
Yeah,
way too much.
I think the number one most important thing, if anybody's going to take anything away from this, though, I mean, that's a funny story and all, is ask for references and get at least 3 and actually call those people and talk to them and ask them what their experience was and if they had any overages and if they missed anything on the budget that they had to pay. Like, I think that's the number one most important thing. But then, like, once you start getting into it and because these people are on your team, right?
Yeah.
Like I consider these contractors, they're a part of my team. We work together to get things done. And you want people on your team that you're going to be able to communicate with and that have the same vision as you as far as scaling your business. And, sometimes they will. And I just had another one where we're like, yeah, it's just, we just don't like the way that he communicates and the way that he works. We trust him, but he's not the person for our team. Right. And so then we go and we find somebody else to bring onto our team. So it's an ebb and flow thing. We have like 2 that we've been working with since the beginning, and that's it. Everybody else is kind of like ebb and flow.
Yeah. Now, they all go through their ups and downs. But the other big thing that you said too, that I want to focus in on as well, is we give them one project and we see how they do. You guys, I have messed up so many times by not doing that. Like I find somebody, I'm like, wow, I just saw this house that they did and it looked great. The quality was awesome. Awesome. I'm going to slap you on the next 4 to 5 projects as fast as I possibly can because it looks like you're going to do a good job. And this is how I've lost money in almost every situation flip wise. Anytime I've lost money on flips, it's because I put too much trust into somebody and thought they could handle it all. And something that should have taken 2 months ended up taking 9 months times 5.
Yeah.
Because you have them on 5 different projects,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've been there.
Actually, there's a guy who is in our investing community, and I literally warned him of this, even though I had necessarily gone through it. He contracted 5 properties right away, and he had one GC who I had a somewhat not great experience with, and I was like, "Hey, I just want to warn you, like all these deals that you got are really great deals, but I don't think you have the right person on your team." And I kid you not, this guy lost $1 million.
Wow.
He lost $1 million, lost his
Wow.
girlfriend, lost all kinds
He
of
lost
stuff.
it all.
Because to your point, April, like he hadn't scaled yet, and he hadn't actually pressure tested this GC to actually like produce. And so unfortunately, because this was a GC we ended up firing. So I hear you 100%.
Yeah. I see Tammy's asking this question about any additional steps about hire, like after referrals. The one thing I will say is that you can't predict every single thing, right?
Yeah.
You live and you learn. I would say that, a GC that doesn't know anything about plumbing, that would be hard to vet, right? Because a GC should be able to hire someone at least that knows about plumbing. Now, I had a GC that I was working with to kind of answer this question where, he was he was the project manager, right? They just hired him on at this company, and he went out and he looked at the property. And what I realized fairly quickly is that since he was new, like he missed the fact that it had the galvanized plumbing. And so at the end of the project, we didn't know it had the galvanized plumbing because this was one that like we didn't end up going out to. After this, we ended up going out to every single one. Now we look for it, but we relied on him to look for the galvanized plumbing, and he didn't. And so when it went through the inspection and we had to replumb the whole house, I mean, which is like, $7,000. It wasn't a huge house, but $7,000 is a lot of money. I mean, that's like a fourth or a third of your profit, right? So, there are things that are going to happen, which is why I say if it's your first one, every single mistake is a learning experience. So now right? So you hired someone that didn't know about plumbing. So I guarantee the next person you hire, that's the first question you're going to ask. And that's what you're going to ask your referrals too. So you only learn by making mistakes.
Yes.
And it just happened. So that would go on your question of interviews, right? Whereas it might not be on my question, but I have something else that I'm asking because I lost money doing something else. right?
Yeah.
So, you can't, you do your best to plan, which is why you make sure that you have that profit. If it's you're only doing one at a time, make sure you're making at least 50, right? So that if you have to go in and redo all the plumbing and it's a $10,000 expense, it's not going to make you lose money. And so you just want to make sure that you have that profit margin, and just know that you are going to make mistakes. Again, I've lost money on flips, right? And every single time I've lost money, it hasn't made me want to quit. It makes me want to keep going, learn from my mistakes, and not do it the next time. I'll just do a different mistake the next time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until you get to a point where you're not making any more mistakes because you've made them all, right?
Exactly.
That's the dream.
That's the
Right.
dream.
Yeah.
So like you make less and less mistakes, but you're
Yeah.
never not going to make mistakes, and you're never, I mean, I could even at this point now, we've like stacked up a list of really good contractors, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't run into one that I could, even with all my guardrails. I mean, and that's what this real estate investing is. Like you're going to try to put up those guardrails, but no matter what, you're always going to be running into something. And every time you're scaling your business, you're taking a risk, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Mhm.
And it's just the thing that you have to learn in this business, that mistakes are actually good,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you learn and then you don't do it again.
Yeah.
People need to learn to drop the give a shit gauge, in other words, too, is that,
Yeah.
hey, it's just going to happen. The contractors are people too. They
Mhm.
also make mistakes. They're also going to miss things. Nobody's perfect 100% of the time. So for us to expect that our GC every single time is going to nail it and not miss one or two things, it's not realistic, truly. I
Yeah.
love that. That's such good advice.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of somebody getting into fix and flipping, I've seen people go a bunch of different ways on this. So I'm curious your take on this too, April. What types of houses at the level that you're at right now are you flipping? Are you doing all entry level homes? Are you doing luxury, different price points? Are you doing ground up? What does it look like on the fix and flip side for you?
Yeah, so I am in my market. I like to stay in the 2 to 500 range. I like affordable housing. We live in a military town. Pretty much 99% of our loans are VA and FHA. I have done, as you know, a few higher end flips, and they're fine. It's kind of like, in every market there's an unaffordable range, right? So if I'm at the beach, because we have a beach area, if I'm at the beach and I'm in that 5 to 800 range, that's the unaffordable range at the beach, right? So I don't want to be in the 5 to 800. I know that if I'm gonna do something at the beach, I want to be over $1 million. But I don't love those deals. And so I really try to stay away from them unless it's something that I just cannot turn down. It's going to be like a triple digit flip. So, and then I'll do it. But for the most part, for me, I like the smaller houses, the FHA, the VA. We can do those in volume. It's easier to get lending, I feel like, than to get lending on $1 million house. So I know people say, like, okay, you could do $5 million flips, or you could do 35 smaller flips. Well,
Mhm.
to me, it feels the same, because I'm not really doing more work, right? And I just feel more comfortable in that range for me and my business. So we stay in that buy box. Plus, I love the idea of providing first time home buyers houses
Yes.
and fixing up these, smaller neighborhoods. Like we went through a neighborhood up the street, where, I mean, I counted like 17 houses that needed to be redone. And you can buy a house here. Like I'm buying a house on Friday for 120,000, right? And the
Mm.
ARV
You need
is
to move to Florida?
150.
I know it's ridiculous,
So
right?
it's pretty fun. So that's just me. I think every single person can decide, for themselves what they want to get into. And that's like a personal thing, what you want to do. If it's your first one, I would stay a little smaller, because less, you might not make as much, but you won't lose as much either. And I am not really like, some people are, but not me, into the design aspect of it. And so I'm like, we get just the one paint color, the one paint cabinets, we just have the one, the LVP, the gold
This
round
is
mirror. Like,
exactly where I was about to go with this, by the
I
way.
don't get into the design aspect of it at all. And if we do one of those houses, I have to get into the design stuff, and I'm not into it. If you're into that, it's pretty cool. Like, then you go into luxury because then you get to do all that fun stuff. I
This
know
guy.
Steven's a good designer, not
Yeah.
me.
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm talking to a mirror.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, if you
Keep
and
it
I have
basic.
like the same personality. I'm the same way. Like I will tell him like, hey, I'll be your editor. Like if you come up with all the creative, beautiful things, I'll just like poke at it to be like, oh, did you think about putting a second vanity here? I don't know if you did that with the bathroom or not.
I did not.
But like he's like, oh yeah, I could do that second vanity there. But like
There's so much to consider when it comes to the design too. So sometimes you miss the details.
absolutely, especially
know?
when you're stuck in it for so long. But I'm with you. I'm more about like what is a repeatable process, because that's really how an owner thinks. And I feel like when you're dealing with the price point of FHAs and VAs and like affordable housing for more or less, then you kind of have to understand how are you going to squeeze your margins, and by repeating, that's how you do it, because then that's how you can already predict your costs.
Yes.
Where it would be fun to do a luxury and kind of have that new experience, but it is more, I think, brain work, because it's
more
not
work across the board, to exactly
Yeah.
what April's saying
Mhm.
too. Like you have to at those price points, when you're going $1 million plus price points, you have to have great design. You have to stand out.
Mhm.
So it's either hire a designer and lose more profit, or be fully involved and entrenched in that and try to get the big fat profit at the end of the day that you might be getting from that flip. Like April said, doing a 6-figure spread, then it makes sense, but still it's going to be so much harder. I agree with you, April. Could you do 10 luxury flips and make more, or just the same as you doing 35 to 40 smaller flips? Like you said, it's less work, in my opinion, to do the 35 smaller flips, because it is so repeatable. It's like, here's my cabinet supplier, here's this, here, like I have everything already laid out.
I don't
My
have
crews know it's
anybody
a rinse and
texting
repeat.
me asking me what color tile or vanity or this or that. It's just, they all know, and we just keep the ball rolling.
Just make it new. Make it
Yeah.
nice and new. I love that.
I mean, I'm very prideful still of like the products we put out.
Yeah.
Compared to
love
like
it.
we've seen some flippers put stuff out, and I'm like, this is I'm embarrassed for them.
Yeah.
Like I walked a house with my sister and I was like, how could you put this on the market and feel good about yourself? Like it's really embarrassing. So one of the things I think you're the same way, April. It's like I want somebody to go in there and be really happy and proud that this is something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
that gets
I
to be their
love
first home.
every single house.
Yeah.
I love every single house that I buy. And, I mean, I think it looks amazing. Just because it's not, I mean, I also don't live in a $2 million house, with all these good designs and everything. But I love every single house that we do, even when it's just the basics. But it's nice stuff, but it's basics.
Yeah. So Tammy wants to know, do you budget 10% for overages or more? So this is kind of like your
contingency. Yeah.
Oh, that's the right word.
Yes,
Contingency.
Not really, not anymore. I mean, we do budget for really in the price point that we're at. I really budget between $3,000 and $5,000 for overages. We don't really go over anymore. The way that we've dialed in our processes. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, have they come back and been like, oh, we forgot the washer and dryer room, and we've got to add this, and it's going to be $700? Yes. But we've dialed it in so much now that we don't. If it's your first one, you need to. Because I mean, I think on the first at least 20 flips that I did, we went over on every single one, but we really don't as much anymore.
That's so good. I love that you're setting that like expectation, because one of the things that I've struggled with is the fact that like timeline and budget seems to be the constant problem, right? And so like, I think at the end of the day, you have to look at it as an owner and be like, what is the cause of that, and how can we dial it in? So that's really, really good feedback. But the way you dial it in is to like go through the process, learn and learn, and then like deal
Exactly. Now you
Mhm.
know exactly what you're looking for on every single house.
with it.
So that it doesn't happen, right? So, let's just say that you go in and you're like, oh, okay, I have $4,000 for plumbing. Sometimes you might only use 2,000, or maybe it's 5,000, right? But at
Hmm.
least like it's not like we left the whole plumbing out,
Yeah.
right? Whereas when you're new, you might, and even if you have a contractor in there, they miss things, which is another reason why we like to be local with our flipping, because there was a point where we would just send our contractor and we wouldn't go out. We go to every single one now. And I don't, but my husband does, and that's his job. So no matter what, he wants to lay his eyes on it. And he's real funny. My husband, he's like, if he doesn't even if he goes in and he'll be like, I don't have a good feeling. And I'm like, this is an awesome house. I don't care. I don't have a good feeling, and I'll be like, all right, I guess we're not buying it. So he's also got to have like his feelings in place.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah.
sometimes I push past it and I'm like, I don't care about your feelings. We're getting this one, but like just look it over and make sure that I'm right with my budget. But a lot of times I can just like I look at the pictures and I'm like, boop, 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 done. And I
Yep.
know, right? And
Yeah.
then we'll go out. And here's why we go out. You go out and you step foot in the house and the foundation's wonky,
Hmm.
right?
You
So you
have to.
need to set foot in the
You
house.
have to.
If I feel a little bit dizzy in there, I'm like, oh, like this foundation's wonky. Or let's say you get to the house and the neighbor's house is completely falling down and there's a bunch of people sitting outside smoking weed, right? Like you're like, oh, wow. Like you can't see that kind of stuff in the pictures. You like to drive, especially in this market. I'm always looking for the one thing that's going to drive the price down, because it's the one thing that has driven the price down for me where I've lost money, right? So, for instance, here's a house that we did last year that I underestimated the fact that you needed a really nice backyard. So, this is an area of Jacksonville that's far away from the beaches, has the best schools in the
Mm.
city. A lot of people live there. Price points are like 400 to 800, so higher for Jacksonville. That's high. I know that's probably like affordable where you are, but that's high here.
Yeah.
But everyone has kids and everyone wants a really nice backyard. So with our backyard, there was a lot of trees. There was, some debris. There wasn't a lot of grass because the trees, and it was a huge lot, but there was a lot of water in the lot. So we put fences on both sides, but then everybody would come and they would like see the back and they'd be like, it's like a swamp in here. And so, I mean, we could not sell this house for the life of us. All we did was we went in and we put a fence in the back and we did a little bit of landscaping and made it look a little bit nicer. And we immediately sold it, right? So um, there's little things like that you're going to need to understand. You're always looking for the one thing that's going to drive the price down of the house in this market. And you're looking around for that. Like maybe you show up and everybody has a driveway and yours isn't paved and everybody else's is, right? And that's
Hmm.
not in the contractor's budget because you didn't ask them, but you see everybody's is paved and all your comps are paved and you're not. Well, guess what? You're going to spend another $10,000 on a paved driveway. So you better
Yep.
add that into your budget. So
Ooh,
it's little
that's such a
things
gem.
It is
like
such a gem.
that you got to look for the one thing that's going to drive the price down and make sure that you add that into your budget and that you're taking that into consideration when you're buying the property.
Amen.
We always plan worst case scenario. And then at the end of the project, if it looks better than we thought, we do this a lot where we're like, we're going to sell this house for 410.
Right.
Right. And then at the end, we go, we can sell this for 440. Now
Yeah.
that we got to the end here, because we saw how everything progressed here, but you have to go to the neighborhood ahead of time. Like you said, you have to walk the property. I've walked properties where it looks great in the photos, like you mentioned, and it's a shit show on the inside. I've also walked properties where it looks like a shit show in the photos. And I walk in and I'm like, this
It's
is why everyone's
great.
been passing up on this house. This is
Yeah.
like perfect. Wow, this
Yeah.
is easy, cosmetic, in and out.
Yeah.
The other thing I look for too when I'm going through the neighborhoods is, am I going to be the nicest house in the entire neighborhood now? Because I also don't want to be the nicest house once I fix this up if everything
No,
else is a
no.
shithole, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope.
To go back real quick with Joanne, she does want to know, where do you go for private money lenders?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think I saw somebody else asking I want to buy a house, I want to do a flip with zero of my own money, but I don't have any private lenders. How do I do that? Well, you don't.
Mhm.
I mean, the only way that you're going to fund 100% of your deal is with a private lender. You got to have private money in order to do that. Now, for private lenders, it is completely relationship based. So I would start with friends and family, right? And here's the thing: when you're doing a flip and you're going in, it's secured on an asset. So as long as your numbers are good, then the fact that the money is secured on the asset it makes it extremely safe. So there shouldn't be an issue going into business with friends and family. If you don't want to go, that's where I would go first. And that's where I started. And then and then you start going outside of your network. The number one way to raise money is through social media. I mean, start talking about it start talking about what you're doing. I posted, I had two opportunities. One I posted yesterday and one I posted today. And I told people to DM me invest. And I had a bunch of DMs of invest that
I
people
almost
want
DM'd her.
to do it with me. But it didn't happen because I started my social media yesterday, right? I've been going on my social media for years. And I've been putting out there what I'm doing. I've been showing people what I'm doing. So it does take time in order for people that are outside of your network to trust you, to want to invest with you. So you start with people that trust you. You start with people that know, like, that you can work with, that want to give you money. That's where you start. And then you grow outside of that. Networking is going to be your biggest thing with raising private money. And you have to start talking about it with people. You have to start telling people what you're doing. So the girl that we helped, that I helped do her first flip, she raised her money from her parents and her grandparents. Maybe you don't have parents or grandparents. Maybe you have, friends or family. And a really good place to find private money, I know you'll like this, Ingrid, is IRAs, self-directed IRAs, 401ks. People aren't using that money.
Mm-mm.
And so you can actually move that into self-directed IRA. So I like to say target, right? People that have self-directed IRAs, because they can lend out of their IRAs and make way more money than they can in the market. And it's secured on an asset. So it's way safer. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just money in the air on, these ideas of stocks and bonds. You're on an actual tangible asset that they can drive to, they can look at, they can see that their investment isn't really you. Yes, it's you, but it's on an actual piece of property. And so it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, it's a simple process, but it can be done. And you have to put it the work in, just like with everything else.
Mm-hmm. It becomes easy though.
It does.
Easy
It
or
gets
way
easier and
easier.
easier, just like everything, right?
Right. Like April's saying, guys, same thing on my end as well. If you talk about the flips that you're doing, show the before and afters, brag about how much your private money lenders made on that deal. Like, talk about the things that you're doing. I can make a post right now. I actually did it last week for two deals that came up on my end. I said, hey, I need to raise 60K. I'm paying 12% interest. I had nothing short of 11 people reach out saying, I have the 60K, I have the 60K, I have the 60K. And I had to go through and be like, strategically, who should I be working with? You know what I mean? But it becomes this thing where people can trust and rely that you're the person that's going to get it done because they've seen your track record over the past year, 2 years, 3 years, and onward.
Yeah, you have to start with people that trust you and are invested in your journey, right? And so those are going to be the people that are closer to you, and it just starts with conversations, lunches. So like Steven said, I had 11 people reach out to me. I don't mind if 11 people reach out to me. I want to meet with every single person that is going to invest with me. And so I make them get on a Zoom call with me and I go over everything, kind of like what we're going over today, right? Like my whole business model, everything that I do. So it is going to be meeting with people, because just like they have to have their trust in you, you have to have your trust in them. right?
Mhm.
Because they could not show up or try to sue you, or, so you want to make sure that you're vetting people just as much as the people are vetting you. And just, I always say this, don't forget, they're not doing you a favor. You're doing them a favor.
That
Yes.
part.
That drives me nuts, because I'm
You're the
like,
hot
I'm
girl,
over
April.
here
You're the
doing
hot
the work.
girl.
Right.
That's
Yes.
right.
Exactly.
That's so
So
fun.
if you
Angela, I
put,
just talked about this yesterday,
That's
how
right.
I have a lender right now that's just been kind of dodging me a little bit, being kind of difficult to communicate with. And I'm like, I'm not playing this game. I'm not waiting all this time for the money and all this kind of stuff. If
That's
you're,
right. You're the hot girl.
I'm like, you're either in or you're
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
This is a good deal. You walked the deal. We did all the things together. Unfortunately, from this point forward, like, unless you're coming to me, like, I don't have an opportunity for you right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I go fund it with someone else, and when they come, I'll be like, you snooze, you lose.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
But I got
100%.
another one for you. You ready?
Exactly.
And that's what I do. Like, hey, I don't need your money, right? I don't need it. And I want them to feel perfectly comfortable. But remember, like, that's the biggest thing. You have to remember that. Like, you're the one that's doing the work, and they're getting the benefit of it.
That's right.
Right.
Mhm.
And so so when you're asking people for money, don't think of it as, you know, that they're doing you a favor. That's not the case.
100%. And when we've done these like challenges, and when people come into like our mentorship and ask me questions about this, that, and the other, I always say to them, like, either you want to be a fix and flipper, or you want to know fix and flippers. And why? Because I always say, like, fix and flippers are the hot girls. Everybody
Yes.
needs them. Everybody wants them. Why? Because they're the ones putting in the work.
Yeah,
They're
the good
ones that
fix
are
and flippers, right?
good fix. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Good fix
Yeah.
and flippers. Yes.
I mean,
I
look
don't-
at the gator. I mean, look at the gator community. What are they
Yeah.
looking for? They're looking for us,
That's
Yeah.
right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They need operators they can trust that are
Yeah.
going to respect their money. And by the way, April, so many kudos to you. I honestly, if I hadn't gotten my payout like yet, like I was ready to throw you that 20 grand. I saw that request, but what you call it? One of the things that I really admire about you is the level of respect you put on people's money. You respect it. I love it.
Yeah.
And that's like you're taking the time to do the Zooms. You're taking the time to explain your business. You are and by all the ways that you're actually doing it, and the fact that you're actually doing it with private money lending, because that means they're going to be in first position, people. There is no higher respect than that, in my opinion,
Yeah.
as a lender. So nice job.
Thanks.
Well done.
It's so good. It's just such a high level of professionalism that you really bring to the table too. And I think it's something that lacks entirely in this industry, real estate across the board, whether you're an agent, whether you're a title company, whether you're a fix and flipper. I think that there's such a lack of professionalism, and it makes a difference. It makes such a difference. It's one of the biggest things that private money lenders bring up to me is the fact that I communicate with them. I'm willing to take them to the projects. I'm willing to hop on the Zoom, break everything down, show them how it works. Because a lot of these people are also aspiring flippers that want to be able to get into flipping. So their little foot in the door is, I'm going to start lending over to April, right? And so that way they can start learning how it all goes. So just love what you're doing there.
Thanks.
On the side of rehabs, are you trying to stick to only certain types of rehabs? Because that's a big talk as well amongst flippers. There's flippers that love to do addition plays or love to do things that just go down to the studs every single time, so everything's new. And there's flippers too that say, I want it as cosmetic as it comes. I want to be in and out in 2 weeks, 3 weeks max, and then put it back on the market. Do you have a certain way that you like to run it, or do you take it all?
I feel like the cosmetic flips are the ones that sell for way too high and they go super quick, right? Because
Mhm.
that's what, like, a lot of people want that. I'm not afraid to take on the giant projects. I don't even care about foundation issues as long as I know it ahead of time, right? Like, that can be resolved. And so I think for the most part, we do take on a lot of the bigger projects just because people stay away from those. But I'll really take anything as long as the numbers work. And I, when you have to kind of compare it to the comps, right? Like, what are your comps? What do they look like? What is everybody else doing? And then that's what you need to do in your property, right? You just want to
Mhm.
be what some of the other comps are. So to me, I really don't care what it is as long as the numbers work. I'll take on just about anything. Like, I did one that was essentially, I mean, basically construction from the ground up. But it's like we're going to be able to sell it for 600,000 and I bought it for 100 because nobody wanted it because you had
Yeah.
to essentially build a whole new house. I don't care. I've got the contractors in place. I think if it's your first one, you don't want a project like that because you don't want to get involved. I mean, even with that project, my contractor didn't really communicate the fact that we had to get an engineer and it went month after month, with the engineer and all that. It was fine because the profit margin is there. But if it's your first one, and I think a lot of people in here, that's what they're looking to get into, then I would just try to keep it to where you're not dealing with foundation issues. You're maybe not doing a full gut, but you don't have to just stick with cosmetic. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of people will pay too much for those, and I don't like those. So
I
whatever
think
the
when
Totally.
numbers are, I'll do it. I don't care. Just
As
sell
long as
me
it
all your
works.
deals
yeah.
in
If it fits,
Jacksonville,
it ships.
Florida. Bring me all your money and sell me all your deals.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that's what Steven and I kind of went on forward with too. It's like we'll do a mix. Although I think we are cautious about like taking too many guts versus the cosmetics. So you do want to have a good mix. And simply because out here it's just a little bit pricier, right?
Yeah.
So we're
Well,
doing
you
Yeah,
also
like
more.
if
you,
I
you also don't
have
want nine
if
full guts lingering around, and
yeah,
you're like, oh my
right. I
god,
don't
come
want
on.
10 $200,000 projects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I have one or two $200,000 projects, that's fine. I would say for the most part, where I am and what I'm doing, I'm between 50 and 80.
Yeah.
Love it. So good. Let's back it up all the way to the beginning of the podcast too. You were talking about, what is it, mentorships? You have people come out and fly out to see you speak,
Yeah.
education.
Workshops.
Yeah, workshops.
Learn from the
Workshops. Yeah.
best. April Juliano.
Break that down for us.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you touched on it a little bit, but we want to know all about it.
Yeah, so I'm doing these workshops now where I'm only taking 7 to 10 people, and we're doing a weekend, and I'm just teaching my entire business and my process, like giving SOPs. We're going out into the field, we're doing budgets, we're doing walkthroughs, the whole kit and caboodle. And then with the people that attend my seminar, I'm giving them the opportunity to do their first flip with me. So their skin in the game is that they have to find the lead. And that's part of what I teach at my seminar, how I find my leads. I would say 90% of my leads are free leads that I get from agents, wholesalers, referrals. I buy tons of on market deals. I really don't care as long as the numbers work. So I'm going to teach that. So you bring me the lead and I will fund the deal and I will do your first flip. And then that way you have a HUD that you can take and go and do your next flip. So that kind of what you were saying, Stephen, a lot of people like they don't know where to get money. They don't know how to do their first flip. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to do that. So that's kind of like taking all of that and leaving you with putting it on me, right? Like you bring me the lead, I'm going to fund it, I'm going to show you how to do everything, and then you're going to be able to take everything you learn and go do it on your own from there.
That's fantastic.
Oh, it's so good.
But if they find you a lead, it has to be in Jacksonville.
Yes. Yep. That's
Okay.
the thing. So so I have a couple people that are coming from out of town, and I'm like, listen, if it does have to be in Jacksonville, I'm going to show you how to find these leads in Jacksonville, but pretty much everything that I do is virtual. And so you can do everything virtual. I would just love it if maybe you came into town one more time, maybe at the end to see everything, but you can still do your first flip with me virtually. That's totally fine. And then you can take what you learn and go do it in your own market. But if you're going to partner with me, you have to do it in Jacksonville.
Any zip code in Jacksonville?
So yeah, not every zip code. There's a couple that I don't buy in. I like to say like the high crime areas, which would be like I can give them out to anybody who wants them.
Cool. And how would people get a hold of you to get the workshop information and if they want to send you a deal?
At Instagram. I should have put the Instagram on my handle there. It's
Let's
at
pop it up there now.
I'll slap it.
yeah,
What's your
at
Instagram?
April N Juliano.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
guys,
so if
go
you
follow
come
her
from
on
out of
Instagram.
town, to come to my seminar, it's 3 days. We start with the dinner and then we do all day Saturday and Sunday. You partner with me on your first flip. That can be your virtual flip. There you go.
Hey,
But we can do it all virtually. Just have to do the deal in Jacksonville.
when is the next one coming up?
It's February 28th to March 2nd.
Is that one already booked out?
I have 3 more spots.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, I'll take up to 10. I've got 7. So I will book 3 more spots if
Beautiful. Is
anybody
this
else
something
wants.
you're going to be doing every month? So if somebody couldn't make it this
No,
time around,
not every month because I want to be able, because it's essentially a mentorship, right? Because when the weekend's over, I want to make sure that everybody's able to find a deal and that we can do a deal together. So really, I mean, it benefits me because, when you're partnering with me on the flip, like I'm making the money, you're learning, right? But I'm getting deals and I'm able to do more flips and you're going to walk away with knowledge and a HUD that you can go get lending, right? And show
yes.
that you've done a flip before. So that's where I benefit, but essentially it's a mentorship. So I want to make sure everybody gets a deal. So I'll probably do one more this year and we'll see how the 2 go. And then so the next one I would say would be in the fall. So if you can't come to this one, we'll have another one in the fall.
Ooh, I want to go.
Those are both beautiful times to be in Jacksonville, Florida, by the way.
Yeah,
I want to go.
seriously.
I can't go the end of February. I have soccer in Utah. I'll be in Utah.
Nice.
But wait, did you say March 28th?
No,
No,
February.
February 20th. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be in
I was
Utah.
trying to stay away from like being close to Squad Up.
Squad Up Summit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Right on.
Goodness.
Well, this has been like it was like bam, bam,
I know.
bam,
Gem.
I know.
Just so
100%.
good.
So good. I can't wait to have you back. This is great.
Thank you. I
think-
appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, quick question too. Are you up on your goals this year from last year? You did 37, you said?
Yeah. I mean, okay, what do I have to think. So there was 3 deals that fell out last month that I'm pretty upset about for last minute, like, title issues or whatever. So I'm a little bit behind, but we'll see. And it's one of those things too where it's like I had the goal to do 25 and I did 37. And so I really am just buying as many as I possibly can that work, but I also don't want to buy a bad deal. So, if I'm buying 3 so far this month, I bought 3 last month. My goal would be 4 to 5. So I am a little bit behind, but if I bought 3 per month every month, which I know there's going to be some months where I buy more, then I would hit at least that 36. But I'm hoping also with the classes that I'm teaching, that'll, bring in some more
Cycle.
volume as well, which is why I
Mhm.
was adding the classes. So that, again, that benefits me, but we're close. However, I already hit my personal goal because my personal goal was to lose 15 pounds for the whole year, and I already lost all that weight.
Come on.
Oh
So
my
now I
gosh.
got to add to that.
Light, sunshine,
I
DNA.
love
it's
it.
the
Yeah,
only way.
exactly,
Okay, so-
Courtney.
Yeah.
Again, we're on some sort of like parallel vibe because I lost 15 pounds this year.
Yay!
I got a little bit more.
So I knew this information about both of you guys, and I was like, I'm totally not bringing this up on the podcast though, too, because I feel like it
Yeah.
would have been weird.
Because then we'll go on for another
Yeah.
hour.
He's like a brother,
Yeah.
like we could talk about weird stuff like that. I don't
Anything.
feel
Come
weird
on.
about my fat,
My family members are
It's there.
OBGYNs.
It's
Get
there.
out of here.
I know, yeah. It's there. Yeah. Well, what are you doing for like some of your weight loss?
Well, I'm doing,
goal?
you had her on your podcast, Courtney. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm
We love some
following
Courtney.
Courtney.
I
and
legit
doing the protocol.
I met with a gal yesterday who wants to be a PML for one of my projects, and she brought up Courtney Hunt, and she's like,
Oh, cool.
I love that you had Courtney Hunt on your podcast. I've done her
Yeah.
genetic protocol. I had my whole family do it. We are on her, she's taken 3 or 4 of her classes.
Yeah.
She's like, you don't understand. She changed my life. And
I
she was
know.
somebody who had like a debilitating problem with her gut, like an overgrowth of too much bad stuff in there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she's like, I'm no longer foggy. I'm ready to be me. How can
Yeah.
I help you in real estate?
Sounds
I was
like Courtney
"Go,
already.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
That's her energy 24/7.
Yeah. So I had to text Courtney last night. I told her, I was like, hey, I just want you to know, like, you totally changed this woman's life. And it's just so cool that it's benefiting me
Yeah.
because
Because
this
now
gal
she's
is
lending me money.
Yeah, right.
yeah, it was really cool. So, anywho,
Yes.
but yeah, well, good for you. I still can't seem to get up early enough to go look at the sun. I've done it a few times. I'm inconsistent about that, but the couple of things that I am doing is I only eat when the sun is out now.
Yep.
I am eating low carb. And
Yep.
then I'm getting enough sleep. Those are like the 3 things right now that have gotten me to like 15.
Those are
Yeah,
major.
that's great.
Yeah. Although fasting has helped. So I'll be
Mm.
doing that a little bit more this year.
Yeah, so go back and watch the Courtney podcast.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
1,000%.
So
Yeah.
you guys
family
will all
business,
know what we're talking about because
Yeah.
Courtney's awesome.
Awesome. Well, April, it's been such a pleasure. I can't wait. One of these days, you're going to have to be here with us. We love
Yeah,
your energy.
person.
We love you.
one day.
So, yeah.
We can all go hike Camelback Mountain together at 4
Yeah.
a.m. It'll be great.
I remember the last time I did it, I almost died. I don't know how she does it every day.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But just like anything else, guys, it's a muscle. We'll get used to it.
We can
That's
do
right.
it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. You guys are awesome. That was fun.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank
Go
you,
follow
April.
April Juliano on Instagram.
Yes.
And don't forget, guys, we are here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Arizona time, bringing experts and amazing people like April so you guys can ask your questions and understand how to scale your business. So we'll catch you guys next Wednesday.
Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.